Hey, and welcome back to Recap Stories. Today we're going to look at the Spanish sci-fi thriller, Time Crimes. I hope you enjoy the video, and remember, spoilers ahead. The film starts and we see some shots of the Spanish countryside. Hector has returned home from a day of shopping and his groceries have spilled all over the driveway. He bought his wife Clara some gardening supplies. Hector heads upstairs to lay down for a bit. He can't seem to get comfortable though. Looking in the distance, he sees a strange antenna. His phone rings, he asks who's there, but all he hears is heavy breathing. He calls the number back and gets a message saying, it's a restricted number and to enter his access code or leave a message. His wife comes in, startling him, and he drops the phone. They're outside and Hector's still staring with his binoculars. He sees something in the distance, but his wife gets in the way. He looks again, seeing a woman taking her top off. His wife returns and scares him, immediately putting the binoculars down. Hector doesn't mention what he saw and gives her the car keys so she can head to town. The moment she pulls out, he's got the binoculars back on, looking for the naked woman. He heads back where he saw her. Walking down a trail, he sees the woman's clothing, but no sight of her. He trips and falls, and the naked woman is right in front of him. He throws a stick at her, but she doesn't move. She's breathing, but not awake. Suddenly, he's stabbed in the arm by an unknown assailant with a pair of scissors. He takes off running back to the house. Hector hides behind a tree, blood running down his arm. He peers out from behind a tree and sees someone in the woods. The man with the scissors has bandages covering his face. He turns and scares Hector, who takes off back running. Hector arrives at a fence with barbed wire. Attempting to climb over the fence, it collapses. He's at a building with loud music playing. Hector bangs in a window saying hello, but there's no answer. He throws a rock, breaking a window, and enters the building. Hector finds a calendar with some writing on it. He goes down a hallway and enters some kind of a medical room. His cut now bandaged, he finds another room with some strange equipment. He grabs a walkie-talkie and says hello. A voice says it's private property. Hector tells them he's being chased by a man and has been stabbed. A loud noise is heard overhead. The voice tells him to stay there and he'll be right over. He asks if the man chasing him is wearing a bandage. Hector says yes. The voice tells him the man jumped the fence and he's going to call the police. Hector barricades himself and the man tells him he can't get a call through. He tells Hector to meet him in a silo on the right side of the property. A path of lights are turned on and the man tells Hector to stay on the path. The voice tells him to run as a bandaged man is headed his way. Hector tells him to turn off the lights as he's tired. The lights are off and Hector makes a run for it as the voice from the silo has opened the door for him. The two men are in the silo and we meet Joven. He tells Hector to get into some kind of device to hide. Joven tells him he can lower the hatch with this switch. The bandaged man is pulling up in a car and there's no other way out besides the door Hector came in. The bandaged man looks in the window and Hector hops into the machine. Joven doesn't enter and Hector is trapped in the machine. There's a quick flash and suddenly the hatch is raised and Hector is coughing and choking. It's suddenly daytime again. Joven asks Hector who he is and if they've ever met. Hector says, "What did you do to me?" Joven asks him if he's been here before, if the tank was full of white liquid. Hector looks with the binoculars and sees himself and his wife at his house. We see the same events that we saw earlier. Joven tells Hector he went back in time. Hector is heading home to call the police, but Joven is telling him he can't because he's already home. Joven tells him the date, and it's actually the same day. They're at the facility, and Joven tells Hector the man is like a reflection of him, and will do everything he did that day. He draws that same drawing we saw earlier, explaining his reflection. It will last until a certain point, and then both Hectors will become one again. They plan to send the other Hector back in time with the machine, and this Hector can take over again, repeating the day's prior events. Hector grabs a phone and calls home, but the other Hector answers. Stressed out, he hangs up and sits back down. Joven tells him he can't call home. He's supposed to lay low. He asks Hector if he talked to himself and if he got a call earlier in the day. Hector tells him he did. Joven tells him if he does anything to change events, he'll cease to exist. Hector is to go and stay in a room upstairs until it's all over. He grabs some keys and takes a car sitting outside. Hector drives up to a gate. He opens them with a button on the keys. He sees a woman ride by in a bike, looking just like the one he saw earlier. A car hits him, driving him into a tree. His head has been all banged up. He removes the bandages from his arm and starts wrapping his face. The woman from the bike comes down to see if he's okay. Hector says he's okay and the woman asks about his head. She runs off saying she's going to call an ambulance. He's sitting on the roadside and tells her not to go. She pulls out some scissors and helps adjust his wrapping. Hector takes them and hides them behind his back. He tells the woman to wait and says he needs her help. Hector grabs a coat off the side of the road and asks the woman to follow him. She's pretty hesitant. He won't let her go though. He looks through his binoculars and sees himself. The woman takes off running in the woods. Hector comes up behind her and grabs her, telling her to do what he says. He instructs her to slowly remove her top. She puts it back on and they head over to a rock. He again sees himself watching through the binoculars. Hector tells her to remove her clothing. She attacks him and runs off. He grabs her and they fall down a hill. She's knocked out cold from the sudden impact. He carries her over to the rock and lays her down, tearing her shirt off in the process. He removes her remaining clothes and crawls away. Hector watches as his mirror calls to her and throws the stick. He stabs him with the scissors and he runs off. Hector chases him in the woods, mimicking what he saw earlier. He hears the woman scream and runs to her, but she's gone. Hector heads home and breaks down his fence. He heads inside looking for his wife. She throws a table, knocking him down the stairs. He looks out a window and she's escaped down a ladder. Footsteps are heard inside and he heads back in. He bursts through a door saying it's his house. His wife is on the roof and he grabs her ankles. He pulls and she falls to the ground below. Hector looks and his wife is dead. He's completely torn up and distraught. Hector calls Jovan on the walkie-talkie and tells him to get his mirror in the machine and he'll head up there. Hector drives to the silo. Jovan tells him the mirror was sent in the time machine. Hector tells him he needs to go back in the machine. Something went wrong. He threatens to break all the machinery and Jovan rushes back. Jovan claims he can't send him back as the trip used up all the energy and it isn't renewable. He tells him he'll have to wait till at least next week. Hector notices Jovan remove something from the machine and hits Jovan. He threw it outside. It's one of the batteries and won't work without it. Hector removes his bandages and he's messed up. He tells Jovan to go find the battery. Hector believes Jovan is trying to trick him because he knows what would happen if Hector used it again. He hits him and Jovan tells him he knows because Hector 3 already told him. Hector wasn't the first to come through. He was the second. He made Jovan go along with the plan. Jovan is supposed to stop Hector at all costs or something awful will happen. Jovan tells him they were communicating through walkie-talkies. Hector asks, "This one?" And Jovan says yes. Hector throws it on the ground. He's about to smash it and they find the missing piece of the machine. They hear police and Jovan asks what happened. Hector says he has no choice. He enters the machine. Hector 3 gets out of the machine and explains to the confused past Jovan what's going on. We see Hector 2 come out and leave. Jovan is told to distract him and slow him down. Hector gets on a cart and drives to another part of the facility. He stops at the gate forgetting he needs the remote. He's in a truck and barely makes it through the gate as it closes. He sees the woman on the bike ride by. Hector smashes into the car one of his mirrors is driving and crashes it. He wakes up all banged up. Grabbing the walkie-talkie, he tells Jovan it's Hector 3. He says he's sorry and everyone will know what they did. Hector asks why he turned on the machine in the first place. He scares the woman hiding from bandaged Hector and tells her he won't find them there. Hector passes out and the woman wakes him hours later. She carries him over to his house. He tells her they shouldn't go there, but they go anyways. They're searching the house, but no one seems to be home. The woman heads off to go look around. His wife comes in seeing him all banged up. He tells her it's nothing. She says a man with his face covered is outside. She called the police. Hector tells his wife to be quiet and come with him. He pulls out a ladder and tells his wife to stay in the shed. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Hector heads up the ladder to the roof. He enters the house and sees the woman. Hector throws a table at Hector 2. He puts his wife's coat on the woman and cuts her hair, saying they need to fool him. He tells her to run upstairs to the attic and lock the door behind her. Hector goes outside to the shed and grabs his wife. He sits her down in a lawn chair and pulls up another next to her. They hear the woman fall and Hector tells his wife to relax. He throws the scissors into the woods. We see the body of the dead woman as we pass over the house. Hector 2 drives off with the car as the events just keep repeating and repeating and repeating and the film ends. Wow, all that because he wanted to peep on a nude woman in the woods. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you'd like more, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of the next upload. Thanks for watching and as always, do take care.